Okay, so hello everybody. I don't know if you know me. My name is Andrei, and I'm calling you from Romania. Ilo invited me to hold this conference about the mistakes that political leaders make, and with some applications in history and in current times. First of all, let me wish a happy birthday to all the ladies and girls in the classroom because today is International Women's Day. Um, and I would like to remind all the guys in the classroom that um, behind every great man lies an even greater woman. So, guys, be careful about this. Okay, the thing is that I want this conference to go on an interactive way. The the ones that came at the leadership camp 2 months ago know this. I mean, if there is anything, just raise your hand and ask a question. We will discuss it. Don't be shy to interrupt me, okay? Okay, the people from the back, yeah. Ah, hi there! I now I recognize you. Hey there! Okay, did Dilo manage to bring the presentation? I mean, do you see the PowerPoint presentation?
Yes, we see it.
Okay, so mistakes made by leaders. Now, everybody makes mistakes. It's human, right? If we are human, we make mistakes. Now, the thing is that if a normal person makes a mistake, I mean, I don't know, overboil a coffee, let's say, they'll get a headache from a too hard coffee. Or if they drink too much vodka, they'll have a headache the next morning. Now, if a leader makes a mistake, this costs both his country and his people. When I talk about costs, now I refer to economical costs. I refer to human lives. We will see in the presentation that some mistakes cause the lives of tens or hundreds of thousands of people. Now, it is important for us to know what the mistakes of our historical character made, so that in the future we can avoid making those mistakes. Why avoid them? Well, if we keep making the same mistakes over and over again, where's our progress? Where's our progress as a civilization, as a humankind? So learning from others' mistakes ensures us that we will not make them in the future. Okay, we will pass on now to the second slide of the presentation, where we have a quotation from a great historian and politician called Edmund Burke. He said that those who don't know their history are destined to repeat it. What are your thoughts on this? I mean, what do you think? Do we need to know our history? Do we need to know what the mistakes that were made in history are? Can we prevent making mistakes if we know what happened in the past? What are your thoughts on this?
I think so. I won't. I said yes.
They say okay. So we can prevent mistake. Okay, yeah.
Making a mistake is the only teacher that will forever be with you.
Okay.
If it makes any sense.
But if someone else makes a mistake, don't you think we can learn from our friend's mistakes or our?
If we try, yes.
Okay. Somebody else? Any other thoughts on this? No? Okay, we'll be moving on then. So, psychologists and historians agreed upon a list that you see now of traits or circumstances that make leaders make mistakes. Okay. Now we shall see each one of them and talk a little about each one of them to understand how they make us make mistakes. Okay, so the first one on our list is rage. How do you think rage can make a leader make mistakes?
Well, it takes away the whole critical thinking, so which is one of the most important traits a leader can have.
Okay, so if you are enraged, then you cannot see the bigger picture
Yeah,
of your actions.
yeah. And
Okay.
you become very, very close-minded, and you don't think about the consequences to your actions.
Yeah, I agree with that. So if you are enraged, you act like an animal. You do not use your human rationale anymore. You do not ration anymore, and you lose the fact that differentiates humans from animals. You lose your logic, and if you lose this, then you will make mistakes. Okay, next, it's pity. Now, when we go to church, let's say, they teach us you have to have pity. You have to think of the people that are lesser than you. Um, do you think that pity can affect the judgment of a leader, let's say?
Well, yeah, because he could put his pity before politics, and that could ruin his well everything really. Because if he feels sorry for someone and helps them, it could just come up as ruining his country.
Okay, so if I feel too much pity for somebody, they could take advantage of me, and they could treat me like a fool, right? And if I, as a leader, am treated as a fool, then I lose authority. Yeah, damn internet connection. We have technical problems. I think the Russians are sabotaging us. Again. So where did you lose me? At the pity part?
Yeah.
Okay, get the video back on. So we were talking about pity. So I was saying that if you show pity or too much pity to someone, then you might find yourself in a situation in which you are treated as a fool by the ones that you show pity to. They could take advantage of you. And that will cause you to act irrational when you realize that. Because you will think that, oh, I wanted to be good with this guy, and now he treats me like a fool. And you might migrate to rage, about which we talked earlier, right? Now, the next thing on our list is envy. So, that's a pretty obvious one. In my opinion, envy is the thing from which all bad things come in human behavior. And I personally can trace every bad thing that a human being does to envy. Well, if you have envy for someone, then you will try to do everything that you can do to create some harm to that somebody, to take away that thing that that person has and you don't. And in this, by doing this, you might get up to a situation in which you are so blinded by trying to do harm to that person that you lose the bigger picture. So again, we have a big problem. When a leader or anyone, if anyone loses the big picture of their actions, we have a big problem. Okay, next we have faith. In faith, if you have too much faith in something or someone, again, you might find yourself in a situation in which you can take irrational decisions. Let's think about this. Georgia, as Romania, is mainly an Orthodox country. And from what I understood when I was visiting your country, the church has a lot of power, doesn't it? Right?
Right.
Yeah. So let's think about the people in the countryside, for example, from the villages. They usually tend to go more to church than the people from the cities or towns. And let's say that the priest in a community tells the people that, oh, it is good to rent your land for half the price of the market. Because the people in that community, in that village, trust their priest and see him as a beacon of authority in their community. They will trust that priest, right? And they will rent their land for less than it's worth. Now, faith can be applied to even greater situations. Let's say you are during an exam or before an exam, and your best friend tells you that, oh, you shouldn't prepare for that exam, it's going to be an easy one. If you have too much faith in your friend, then you will be tempted to not prepare for the exam, to not study properly. And you will find yourself in the exam room not knowing all that you need to know for that exam, and you'll have a bad mark. So we see that too much faith in someone, not necessarily a priest or a religious figure, can get you to in harm, can create harm for you. So we always have to be a little skeptical about everything. We have to question everything we are told or we find out. We don't have to have blind faith in something. Next, we have avidity. Avidity is a form of overtrust. It's a combination between greed and faith. An avid person has too much trust in his own powers and thinks that he is the absolute master of a situation. Now, let's think about a situation in which you can show avidity. Any kind of example. When you thought that you were in control of everything. You were so confident that you are in control, you didn't see some problems. Let's think about it. Anyone?
Our own personal experience or in general?
Yes, personal experience. We all have been overconfident many times.
Too many times.
Too many times, exactly. So, any example at all? Okay, then I'll give a personal example. Now, you will laugh at this because it was one of my most idiotic moments. 4 years ago, I was in love with a girl, and I really liked her. And everybody told me, Andrei, now then don't tell the girl. She is too shy. She will not take kindly to this. And I said, no, I'm in control. I will go there and be a Romeo and just tell her that I like her. And we were in my classroom after at the end of the schedule, and I asked her, girl, can you stay around and I want to talk something with you. And she said, okay, I will. And I told her that I liked her. And the thing that happened next was she turned around and she disappeared in a cloud of smoke. It was very cartoonish, like in Roadrunner. Her shape of smoke remained there, and only a trail of fire remained as she ran away. Yeah, and after that, for a month, I suffered like an imbecile because she refused to talk to me. And in that month, I was literally done for it. I wasn't able to do anything. I wasn't able to concentrate. So, because I was an idiot with that girl, over romantic, overconfident, avid, I lost the opportunity for a nice relationship. And on the other side, it cost me my effectiveness as a person for a month. Next, we have greed. Well, a greedy person, of course, he or she does stupid things. Because when you are greedy for something, you will do anything, no matter how stupid it is, to get that certain thing, right? After greed, we have hope. If a person is too hopeful of something, if they think that no harm can come to a certain plan or situation, they will not be able to prepare for that situation. So if I hope that the girl will not turn me down, will not run away, I will not be prepared to meet that situation. I will just stand there like a donkey, like a stupid imbecile, looking at her as she runs away. Next is a one that it personally makes me laugh, but it is one of the most grave mistakes that usually guys do. It's fornication. In other words, the need for sex. And now, guys, let's be honest here. We all made mistakes when we judge with our other head that we have. People, when they get that certain impulse, that desire to fornicate, to have sex, or they are frustrated because they cannot accomplish that need of theirs, usually that frustration migrates to other aspects of the judgment of what they are doing. And if a person is sexually frustrated because of something, they will tend to make irrational decisions. The last two categories are, let's say, very obvious. It's pride and laziness. A proud person will think himself as of something great, and he will think that nothing can harm him. He will think himself over the standard of other people. He is better than everyone else, so he can do whatever he likes. And also, a lazy person will think that he just doesn't care about anything, and he will leave things to chance. Things to chance will not give him control over a situation and will cause great harm to him. So we saw these characteristics of a leader that makes mistakes. They are universal from antiquity to modern times, as we will see in the following. They have influenced leaders and their decisions. Do you think we can add other things to our list here? Anything. I mean, if you have an idea of something that makes you make bad decisions, Please raise your hand and tell them out loud. Okay, the boy in the first match. Yes.
Well, the thing is that, for example, love. It could make you make bad decisions because, for example, if you love, for example, your friend too much, you could make very, very bad decisions based on your love and just follow them through no matter what. And that could really make you weak as well, but it will make you be in a bad situation sometimes.
Okay. Well, let's think about love. What is love? Love is a combination of hope that that person will return the feeling to you. It's a combination of faith in that person, of very big faith in that person, and why not in some situation of fornication? When you love somebody, especially if it's a boy-girl relationship, then you will at some point want to have a certain contact, a certain bonding with that person at a physical level. So yes, love can be, too much love will kill you, as the song says. Too much love, which is transcribed in too much faith and too much hope, can make you make mistakes. Any other opinion on what can make you make mistakes?
I think that's all.
I wasn't able to hear that.
I think it's enough.
You think it's enough? Okay. 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 Let's move on then to our first character, Menelaus, and his lost wife. Well, probably most of you have heard or seen the movie Troy, which is based on Homer's Odyssey and Iliad. Well, if we look at this guy, Menelaus, he lived 3,000 years ago. And because his wife left for a younger, prettier, funnier guy, he went crying to his brother Agamemnon, the king of Greece. And he said, "Oh, brother, please, my wife ran away, let's go get her." And this guy, he went to his brother, and his brother said, well, come on, man, I will not fight your battles. If you are an impotent man, I will not stand up for you. And Menelaus told him, "Well, brother, the Trojans took my wife from me." And Agamemnon then said, "Oh, if it's the Trojans, we can get her back. We cannot leave her to the Trojans." Well, the situation was the following. Agamemnon, the king, the brother of Menelaus, the guy you can see, wanted to impose his rule over the Aegean Sea. The Aegean Sea is the sea next to Greece. And this guy wanted to impose his control for economic reasons. Troy, the city of Troy, controlled the commerce in this region, in the sea. And Agamemnon said, "Oh, I will go and satisfy my brother, and by doing this I will kill off the Trojans and make myself richer." But that was a political decision. Let's come back to Menelaus. First, he was enraged. He had rage because his wife left him. And he said, "Well, if she left me, then I will kill everybody that stands between me and her." So we can see that a form of love, as you said, made this man get to rage. Then he was envious. He said, "Oh, that prince of Troy cannot be a better man than I am." So he had envy for that prince that was a better man, probably in bed, than he was. This leads us to the other thing that drove him to make a bad decision: fornication. He was sexually frustrated because another man took his wife, and he took this act as a sign of his inferior masculinity. And he was also proud. He was the king of Sparta, and he said, well, that woman cannot leave me, the king of Sparta, for a prince. I'm a king, he's a prince. Come on. This decision led to the destruction of one of the greatest cities, which was Troy, to the death of a lot of people, but also on a second basis, it led to the destruction of Greece. Why? Because when Agamemnon and Menelaus left with all the army of Greece to destroy Troy, the Greek country, the Greek cities remained without soldiers. And the barbarians from the north, from the lower Danube, were able to invade Greece and pillage it. So we see that because this man lost his wife and he was so enraged to get her back, by consequence, the entire Greek civilization suffered a blow because it was attacked by barbarians. Next, we have another ancient hero, Hannibal Barca. For those of you who don't know, he was a Carthaginian general that almost destroyed Rome. Hannibal was the son of a great Carthaginian general, and he saw the defeat of Carthage in the First Punic War. The Punic Wars, there were two of them, were a confrontation between Rome and Carthage, their main rival, for control over the Mediterranean Sea. Well, now you ask, why the heck did they fight over a sea? I mean, it's a big sea. They can just share it. Well, the fact is that they were fighting to control commerce. Now, coming back to Hannibal, he was the son of a great Carthaginian general, which was defeated in the First War. Hannibal said that, well, I'm going to revenge my father. I'm going to destroy Rome and make them pay, them damn bastards, for all they did to us. But he had a problem. He had a big army, but he had no way to attack Italy. Because if he went by sea from Africa, where Carthage is, he would be attacked by the Roman fleet, which would destroy his army, because the Romans had a bigger fleet. If he went by land, he would be faced and attacked. So he said, well, I'm going to go through the place where the Romans expect me less to go. I'll cross the Alps. So, in his pride, in his rage, Hannibal thought that he can cross the Alps, he will suffer no losses, and he will surprise the Romans. The fact is that the Carthaginian troops came from North Africa, which, frankly, is kind of hot. Is a warm climate. And he brought these troops that were raised in a warm climate to cross the Alps during winter. I mean, it was freezing back there. And he lost almost half his army crossing the Alps. He managed to achieve a surprise and defeat the Romans, but his army was so weak that he could not attack his main target, which was Rome itself. And this cost him his entire campaign. So we see that because of his pride, he was not able to accomplish his goals, and he lost almost 200,000 men crossing the Alps. Another leader that we have in the next slide is the Emperor Nero. You all heard of Nero, right? I mean, he was the madman who burned Rome so that he could make space for his palace. This guy Nero thought himself as a god. He was so greedy that he said, I need a bigger palace. I need the biggest palace in the world. And this guy said, well, I have to make space for it. Damn city's too crowded. I don't have space for my palace. But I need my palace because I'm a damn artist. And I need somewhere to perform. Well, he then said, let's make some space. And his chief advisors told him, Great Emperor, how can we make space? Because Rome is a big city, is a crowded city. How can we make space for your palace? And he said, let's burn it. Who could argue with the emperor? Right? And he said, well, let's burn the city. And his soldiers set fire to Rome. It destroyed old Rome, the cultural, the modern Rome, and it created space for an illusion, an avid project of a madman. You can also see there that one of the causes that made him make this mistake was fornication. Well, Nero was, I don't know how many of you know this, he was a homosexual. And he thought that if he could manage to create this huge project, this huge castle in the center of Rome, he will be able to hide himself from the people of the eyes of the Roman people, because Rome was a very traditional society. They were not okay with homosexuals, and having the emperor be a homosexual, you were risking an uprising, a revolt, a rebellion against you. So he said, if I can hide myself in a big enough palace so I do not need to come out ever again, then Nero was a madman because he was so greedy. He saw himself over the normal statue of a man, of a human being, that he said, I am a god. I can do whatever I want without supporting the consequences. And the consequences came. He ruined the empire financially by destroying its center and by requiring money to rebuild it. And he also attracted a lot of enemies, both from the plebe, the normal average Joe of the Roman Empire, and from the patrician families, which were the nobility, which finally led to his assassination. Another one, the next character in our list, is one that you probably don't know. Of course, if you weren't at Basaletti where I talked about him, but if you were, probably you forgot about him. He was George of Podebrady, and he was the first guy in history to propose what we know today as the European Union. Shocking, isn't it? 600 years ago, talking about the European Union. Now, I'll ask you a question. I often wondered how people think about this guy. What do you think made him want a European Union? What could be his possible ideas that made him think of a European Union in the medieval ages? So, what do you think about this? Yes.
Power. What else? to have this huge power of European Union. If all the countries were united, and if he was the authority, this idea, he would have the almost endless power by then.
Okay. Yes, continue.
He
Sorry.
would be in charge of all this. He would be in charge.
Yes. So the desire for power could be an incentive. Any other thoughts? The people in the back, I didn't see you talk too much. Any ideas back there?
Perhaps it was actually the opposite of power. Perhaps he just wanted peace. I mean, that could be. Since you have highlighted hope there, I think that he might have just wanted everybody to live happily ever after, but it couldn't happen in medieval times. It can't even happen now.
Okay, so we can achieve peace through power. That is what the United States are doing right now. They have a big military, and they have peace because nobody dares attack them. So yes, these two ideas, power and peace, could be an incentive to desire a united Europe. Any other ideas? Let's think about what happened in Europe
Perhaps
back
he
then.
wanted to unite everybody against a mutual enemy. Is that it?
Yes, we have the Ottoman Empire attacking through Bulgaria and the Balkans, and Moors attacking from North Africa through Spain. So yes, we have enemies at the gates of Europe. I enjoy the fact that you approached this from this point of view, because this was actually one of the reasons why George wanted a united Europe. Any other ideas? No? Okay, then we'll move on. So, this guy, George of Podbrady, was the king of Bohemia. Bohemia is, if you have a map on your cell phone, it is the northern part of modern-day Czech Republic. It was a small, insignificant country. Nobody cared about Bohemia. It was so small that people just ignored it in that period. This guy had a problem. He was not Catholic, and which in the medieval ages was an act of heresy. You were the servant of the damned devil if you were not Catholic in medieval Europe. He was of a faith which came from Catholicism. It was one of the first Protestant religions. It was a proto-Protestant, if you want. And this attracted the anger of the Pope. And we all know if the Pope was angry with someone, he would call a crusade and kill that someone. That was how they did it in the medieval ages. This guy was scared because he thought that the Pope had too much authority in Europe. Also, he saw that the Muslims were attacking Europe through the Balkans and through Spain. So Europe was in a big problem. Also, we had a lot of wars between France, England, Germany, the Italian states. So we had a lot of interior wars. And this guy said, well, if I can manage to unite all the lords of Europe, we can stop the Pope, we can have prosperity and peace at home, and we can fight the Muslims. We would be powerful if we managed to do so. His biggest mistake was having too much hope that the lords of Europe will stand behind him. He traveled a lot. He went in diplomatic missions, talking to these people about his idea, his revolutionary idea. And some of them said, okay, you have a good idea. We'll back you up. We'll, I don't know, give you some good advice about how you can do it. The King of France told him that, well, we will support you, because the King of France saw himself through this as the leader of Europe. George, or Jiri in Czechoslovakian, traveled a lot. He left his country to ruin, and when he came back from all his travels, he found his country occupied, and he was murdered by his own lords. So we see that having too much hope in this European ideal led to the destruction of his own country. After his death in 1471, Bohemia never had, until modern times, a local king. People like the Pope or the King of Germany or the King of France preferred installing foreign kings like Italians or Germans on the throne of Bohemia because they feared another George might rise up and talk about a European Union. They feared his country, and this is why they destroyed it. This is something that happened even in present times with countries like Romania or Yugoslavia or Ukraine. Why not? We're seeing it happening now. Foreign interests, like the interests of Russia, are trying to destroy it because they fear the contamination with some ideas of their own countries. But we will talk about this later on at the ending of the presentation. Another slide, the next slide, talks about Montezuma and the gods. Montezuma was the leader of the Aztec Empire, the greatest empire in South and Central America. He only had a problem. He was too much of a believer. When the conquistadors came, he saw those ships and those people wearing steel and riding strange animals as his gods, because the mythology of the Aztecs told us that they were waiting for their god Quetzalcoatl to return to them and lead them into prosperity. Well, that may sound foolish to us, but those Aztec guys, they really believed this thing. They really believed that this conquistador that comes with a gun, with a fire-breathing stick at him, is his god. And Montezuma had a huge army. He had an army of 500,000 men. And he came out with his army to meet the conquistadors, which were only a couple of hundred. What would the leader do? I mean, they're invading your country, for God's sake. Kill them! But no, Montezuma went up to the conquistadors with all his large army, and he bowed to his invader. He surrendered his country to this so-called god, to what he believed was a god. So this is a clear example of when faith, or too much faith in a certain religion, can lead to the downfall of your country. He mistook the conquistadors for a god, and he lost his life and his entire civilization. Look now at Central America, and they're still recovering from the colonial rule of Spain and Portugal. They haven't yet achieved the level of European countries, and this is a consequence of that fact. Next we have a guy you probably know, Napoleon Bonaparte. Now, little Napoleon had a dream. I have a dream, he said when he was a child. I want to get off my shithouse island and rule the world. He was an imp. He was small of stature. But his small stature was compensated ideally by his pride. Napoleon was a proud man. He thought well of himself. He thought that by getting to be Emperor of France, which at that period was the greatest nation on earth, he thought that he cannot be touched. When being so prideful and so enraged against Europe and all his enemies, he came to a situation where he was the enemy of Russia. And that was a problem. Anyone who goes to war with Russia has to take into consideration that if they are going to invade, they'll have to fight not only the soldiers and the leaders of Russia, but also its climate, its size. Napoleon was so confident in his army that he said, I'm going to invade Russia, I am going to conquer Moscow, I'm going to kick the Tsar's ass, and I'm going to come back to Paris as a hero. He invaded, but he found himself in no man's land, in a land so big that he could not see the edge of it. He marched his armies to Moscow. He defeated the Russians at Borodino and at Moscow. However, they were not complete victories. They were partial victories because the Tsar didn't send his entire army to fight Napoleon. The Tsar knew that he had no chance to win against the French army. He was inferior to the French army and to the French tactics. But the Tsar knew that winter was coming, as they say in Game of Thrones. Winter is coming. And winter came. And the Russian winter came so hard that it took Napoleon off guard. Napoleon was so confident in a couple of facts. First, he thought that his army is so professional and so well supplied that he will be able to face winter. But the fact was that provisions from Paris to Moscow came very hard. They were attacked by his enemies. They were pillaged, so that he didn't get supplies. Second, Napoleon thought that he would face the Russians in a big battle and then go back home as a victorious champion. It didn't happen like that. The Russians evaded a major battle. And three, he thought that he can withstand the Russian winter, which is a fool's dream. In Russia, winter is so bad that, as Hitler described it, oil freezes in the tank's engine while it is running. Imagine if Hitler, with all his armies, were defeated in Russia. What happened to Napoleon, who didn't have the technology of Hitler? He was forced to retreat, and during this retreat he lost all his army. All the professional French army was lost, and he came back to France, and he had no army to defend himself. And in this moment, all his enemies attacked him, and they caught him off guard. And he lost his crown, and he lost his country. Next we have another Frankish leader, King Leopold of Belgium. Now, Belgium is a country that was created so that France, England, and Germany fight somewhere without bringing damage to their own country. Now, this is a political joke. It's not actually true, but the truth is that Belgium is a young country of Europe. It was created in the 1800s, so it doesn't have a big tradition. It didn't have access to the riches of Europe. And King Leopold, he said, why do the other guys have empires? I want an empire too. Give me an empire. I want an empire now. And he forced his soldiers, his tacticians, to go and find himself an empire. And the only place that they found was Africa. They started to move inwards into Africa. Until Leopold, Africa was only colonized at the edges. Central Africa was free. It had no colonial rule. When Leopold moved and occupied modern-day Congo, which is in the central of Africa, the other countries said, "Oh dear God, this madman is going to take away our riches." And France, Germany, Italy, England, they moved in and conquered other parts of the African continent. So we see that because of Leopold's envy and his greed for an empire, the entire continent of Africa was sacked and robbed of its riches. Why? Because I want an empire too. He was a grown man, but he thought as a child. He was greedy and he paid the price. Moreover, the innocent people of Africa paid the price of his greed. The next character, again in the east, is Tsar Nicholas I and his wife Alexandra. Now, we all know about Rasputin, right? The crazy monk from Russia that cost the Romanovs their kingdom. The thing is that Nicholas came to the throne of the Tsarist Empire of Russia unprepared. He was not to be Tsar. His brother was to be Tsar, but he refused the crown when he was, well, killed. Nicholas came to be ruler of Russia, but he was not prepared for it. He was a weak leader, and he was not able to control this massive empire. Moreover, he didn't have the authority in his government because he did not have a boy, a male heir. So he wasn't able to assure the continuity of his dynasty. Well, when finally a boy was born to him, the Tsarevich, he suffered from a very bad disease, very contagious disease, very problemous disease, hemophilia, which meant that when he cut himself or had a bruise, blood will not coagulate. It will keep on flowing and until he was dead. His boy had problems, medical problems, health problems. This created family problems, and family problems were state problems in the Tsarist Empire. Until a man appeared, a man with a beard, Rasputin. Rasputin was a crazy monk from... Yeah, Ilo, what is it?
Andrei, excuse me?
Yes.
We have to reconnect because the connection is bad. Can you try to reconnect to us because we can't normally hear you, so we have to try to reconnect.
Okay, let's try to reconnect then. Okay.